and sisters, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Greetings and peace from a distant shore, and thank you so much for inviting me to say a few words. In celebrating the centennial of MMM today, one thing I think we should acknowledge is that we are an order of many different shores. We are global, we are growing, and we have survived. To share with you something of my distant shore, this realm is quite a big island, but the world's smallest continent. We're in the southern hemisphere, a long way away from the OTO centres of the USA and Europe. Before the internet connected us all, and I remember those days, we may as well have been worlds apart. And things here are a little different. Our Deosol and Widdishin dances and adorations move differently to yours. And when you were feasting for the first day of the writing of the Book of the Law, we were feasting the second. This event right now is happening in my yesterday. Geographically though, we're about the size of the US, but with a population of only around 22 million. In comparison, the US has clocked over 300 million. But it's a big country. It's closer for me to visit the OTO in New Zealand than it is to visit my own brethren over on the west coast in Perth. The order here is small yet steadily growing. We presently hover at around 120 to 130 dues current members. 22 years ago, when we started actively building what would become the Grand Lodge, we were down to about 7. For all I know, you may well have lodges with more active members than I have in my entire kingdom. And yet, in my mind's eye, I am guided by an operational and spiritual vision that will see us realistically expand over time to perhaps 10 or even 15 times our present dues current size. Probably not in my lifetime though, for this will not happen overnight or miraculously, but will take team effort and energized and enthusiastic, selfless service and work. Now my point with all of this is that we've had to adapt to our environment in unique ways in order to just survive, and then to sustain and develop the OTO as we continue to do. And I imagine that this will be the Order's global footprint over our next 100 years. Unique adaptations to environment in our national sections and the new Grand Lodges of the future, many of whom are likely to have membership numbers similar to our own. New models of the OTO experience will have to manifest that while learning from the past, don't and can't just copycat. And it will take initiated, inspired, courageous and creative national vision and leadership, and the fraternal will on all of our parts to reach out to a global unity in diversity. The days of centricity, US centricity in particular, no offence, I love you guys, are out of date and 2000 and late. Rather, let us now celebrate and inculcate a 21st century world order draped in a rainbow-coloured tapestry. For the colours are many, but the light is one. The Crowley biographer Toby Churton recently said to me about my predecessor, Uncle Frank Bennett, "I remember Crowley's phrase about the thelemic light having gone out down under with Frank Bennett's death. Good to know the lamp is lit again. And it is lighting up all around here." Beyond the work in Australia, there's the OTO in New Zealand, who we've been collaborating with now for going on about 30 years. We also have regular visits to and from the OTO in Japan. We've got to the stage over there where the Order is attracting and retaining members who speak little or no English, and who cannot read English. That is not without some serious challenges for our brothers and sisters. But gone are the days where the Japan OTO was primarily an expat and US military enclave. Something far more interesting, inclusive and multicultural is going on there now, led by the Japanese. We're presently working with our brethren in what we call Greater China to figure out how best we can support our members in Taiwan and the People's Republic of China and develop our operations in Hong Kong. This too is not without its challenges for our people over there, lacking in mainland China at least the basic rights to worship and organise that you and I probably take for granted. We used to have an Asia Pacific Rose Cross chapter, minus Australia. with the most wise sovereign in China, a high priestess in New Zealand, and that operated out of Japan. That's now made way for the first homegrown New Zealand RC chapter in the Order's long history there, and we look forward to establishing a new chapter in Japan when they're ready. We have a brother in the Philippines, and most likely next year we should be heading over there to initiate new candidates with a view to setting up OTO operations. Some of my people are following up on interest in OTO from South Korea, where again we have the language barrier, while New Zealand are in contact with someone requesting Minerval from Pakistan. And so apart from the usual difficulties in cross-cultural exchange and the logistics of organising international initiations, in this case we have to factor in a few minor details like Sharia law, Islamic extremists and terrorism. And a brother of the Sovereign Sanctuary in the US told me recently of a sister in South America wanting to move to India to set up OTO over there. So there's a lot going on beyond the affairs of the kingdom, and the whole region keeps us pretty busy. Some economists say this will be the Asia-Pacific century. Well, so do some Oriental Templars. And yet, in quiet moments, I say a prayer for another distant shore. The OTO in South Africa, who we helped to re-establish in the late 1990s and have visited a few times since. Now, this version of OTO reality may be a little different to your own. You may not have even known that any of this work was going on across the Asia Pacific, just as I know next to nothing about the work going on in the Americas or Europe. And that's my whole point. We are an order of many distant shores. We are global, we are growing, and importantly, we have survived. So what else of the next 100 years? A few years ago in 2007, after a Gnostic Mass in which the aura of the priestess intoxicated me, I made the prediction that this would be the century of the priestess. Writing about this later, I said, and I quote, "Looking back at our manifesto of the Gnostic Catholic Church, we are enjoined via the establishment of the Gnostic Mass to fix our attention on, and our aims most firmly in, the future. In my view, it is the priestesses of our order who are bringing on that future. So much of the experiment seems to be about giving this space and voice, presence, confidence and opportunity that we may unite, exchange, learn, love and listen, all the while creating. It seems like we're on the verge of a new cultural experience, begotten in shamefullest sin and born in most blasphemous bliss, that complements what we have already learnt and experienced in the first 100 years or so of Thelema, the OTO, and the Gnostic Mass. Time will tell, but sisters, I think this will be your century." Time will tell, I guess, but I'm quite high on this sacred space and the universe of discourse that is opening up around us. As our manifesto declares, the priestess must function as well as the priest, and so you should in every sphere of OTO operations. In closing, let's then not only celebrate the 100 years past, but the 100 to come, as the fivefold plan of the OTO, Liber Oz, our powers of the Sphinx, take shape in ourselves and in the world, in the name of the freedom of man, in whom is God. So, thank you once again for inviting me to say a few words. My hearty congratulations to William Blake Lodge. As I hear from Kerry, it's their 20th anniversary as well. No small achievement. Well done. Enjoy your celebrations. Though in a distant shore, I am with you in spirit. Love is the law, love under will. Fraternally, in the bonds of the order, and with all my love. Shiva.